All Blacks squad for the July matches has been named. Certainly a couple of bolters in there that I don't think many people saw coming, and as always, there's always a few guys who miss out. We'll go through the squad quickly, which has just been announced here in NZ. And yeah, you guys can let me know your thoughts on who you think is a good pick, who's maybe a wee bit lucky, where they are short in some areas, and yeah, any other valuable info there is to add. Hookers, you got Aumua, Coles and Taylor. I think that went pretty much to be expected. I mean, Kurt Eklund from the Blues has had a cracking season, and Ash Dixon, likewise, in recent times. They've probably been the two form hookers of the Tasman competition. But prior to that, Codie Taylor was running riot in Aotearoa. So I think he is probably the premier guy. Aumua has got a bit of a different skill set from the other two in that his tackle busting is just second to none. It's the line-out throwing that maybe it sometimes needs a bit of work. And then Dane Coles is your ultimate veteran there, the back of the bus, as they put it. So, yeah, I think those three were pretty much the standard three picks, and that's the ones we got. Props, Bauer, De Groot, Laulala, Lomax, Tyrel, and Tuipulotu. The only real bolter here is De Groot from the Highlanders. He's had a cracking campaign as well. Pretty good in Aotearoa, and then really outstanding in Trans-Tasman as well. Bauer hasn't been capped, but I think he's been in the All Blacks squad before, so kind of was to be expected. Remember, Moody is not available. Tuangafasi is not available. So I think the other maybe slight surprise there is Tyrell Lomax, whose form has been pretty poor for this year. Grant Fox did just mention that he's still a bit of an ongoing project that they are working on. I mean, I trust the All Blacks guys to get this kind of stuff right, because I never used to back Tuangafasi. Me and my old man used to see him play at club rugby level, and he wasn't dominant, and I thought, how is this guy in the All Blacks set up? But sure enough, they've made him into a proper classy prop. So I trust them, but Lomax has got to be showing some improvement, I think, sometime soon, because his discipline's been poor and his scrummaging has been pretty lacking as well. Maybe Alex Hodgman as well as another guy who misses out as a bit of an unlucky one, as I thought he had a pretty good Trans-Tasman campaign for that victorious Blues side as well. Locks, you got Scott Barrett, Brodie, Retallick, Patrick Tuipulotu, and Tupou Vaa'i. The biggest bit of good news that any All Blacks fan gets here is that Brodie Retallick is back for the All Blacks. Remember, he's been in Japan for a couple of seasons, and he's been quite happily doing this thing over in Japan, and now he's back in New Zealand. I think when the pandemic first started, he could have potentially played some rugby. Kieran Reid ended up playing for Counties in the Mitre 10 Cup. Sam Whitelock ended up playing for the Crusaders earlier than expected, but Retallick just did nothing. He may be still under a 2-year contract, so maybe he wasn't allowed to. I think Kieran Reid had to get special dispensation from his club to play, but anyway, we haven't seen Retallick in New Zealand for an age. The dude's world class, so very welcome news to have him back. And I should say that Sam Whitelock, did I not mention him as well? He's the captain. How did I not mention Sam Whitelock? Sam Whitelock is there as well, lurking away above Ethan Blackadder, and he's the captain with no Sam Cane. So, and he's been in cracking form. In Aotearoa, he was the premier lock in the competition, I think, clearly as well. So, yeah, it's an area where we've been looking a wee bit thin in the past, but suddenly with the return of Retallick and Whitelock as captain, plus you got Scott Barrett there, Vaa'i is coming through the ranks, we're looking a wee bit more solid in the second row. Loose forwards, Blackadder, Frizzell, Akira Ioane, Jacobson, Papali'i, Savia, and Sotutu. Again, probably no huge surprises. I mean, people have been calling for Lachlan Boshier, but he's just recently announced that he's heading to Japan. So he was never going to be part of it, given that he's made that call to go overseas. And for whatever reason, he seemed to be out of favour with the All Blacks selectors anyway. I've crunched the numbers on him prior. You guys have seen him play. The dude's class. The fact that he misses out is god-awful. But we are stacked with loose forwards. Tom Robinson misses out as well. Blues man. There'll be other guys as well who are not getting a crack. But yeah, obviously Sam Can's injured, so he's not there. There's still a bit of an injury cloud around Shannon Frizzell. When he's been in form, he's been the classy number 6 in the comp. But that being said, Ethan Blackadder, who the coach has even mentioned that has had a bit of a sketchy injury history, he has been phenomenal. Absolutely every area of his game has been excellent. He can operate at set piece. He gets through a ton of tackles. He's a great ball carrier. He just does everything. The only weakness in his game seems to be that he gets injured a lot. So he stayed fit for most of the year. I think he missed a couple of games in Trans-Tasman for the Crusaders, but the dude's been really good. And if we can get him consistently fit, then I think he could be a proper contributor to the All Blacks as well. Akira Ioane and Oscar Satutu, 2 Blues guys, get in there. Neither of them has had a full run of the starting lineup, but they're both there. Satutu's been playing more 6, Akira more 8, but then they can kind of alternate at times. Papali'i, another Blues man, so the Blues have done pretty well in their loosies. Papali'i's defensive stats and turnovers and whatnot have been phenomenal as well. He's another guy that's kind of keeping the likes of a Lachlan Boshier and a Billy Harmon, who's been phenomenal for the Highlanders, top tackler in Trans-Tasman, out of the side. Jacobson's a good news one that he's back in after being there or thereabouts with the All Blacks prior. Yeah, he's been having a great season too, in terms of kind of like Ethan Blackadder. He's had very good areas in terms of turnovers and his work rate on the ball as well. Halfbacks was going to be an interesting one with TJ not being available for selection. So you've got Smith, who's the safe call, Webber, who's generally been the 3rd guy, maybe now becomes the 2nd guy, and then Christie fills that slot as the kind of new 3rd guy. Yeah, good for him, because he's been the leading Blues number 9. Like, Blues have had 3 halfbacks that alternated throughout the season, but Christie has kind of established himself as the number 1, number 9 in recent times. The Highlanders mentioned his control of the game being a contributing factor to the Blues winning that Trans-Tasman title the other day. Drummond is probably maybe the guy that misses out from the Crusaders, because he's been pretty consistently good for the Crusaders. Well, maybe a slight different game from Christie, but yeah, that's a good mix, I think. There's been talk about Scotland wanting to cap Christie, but they've got heaps of depth at 9 right now, so I think if Christie is going to get anywhere internationally, it's probably with the All Blacks. 10s, it's just the 2 with Bowden Barrett, who's back from Japan. Another bit of good news. And Richie Mo'unga. Personally, I think Richie needs the starting gig based on his form. The whole year, he's been outstanding. He's the top defenders beaten guy in all of Trans-Tasman, and it's a fly half. It's a first 5 doing that. So that speaks to just how deadly he has been ball in hand. So I think he needs to get first dibs on that 10 jersey personally. Midfield is an area we're looking a wee bit sketchy, with Laumape going to France and Goodhue being injured. So you've got Enoa, Havili, Rico Ioane and Anton Leonard-Brown alongside an absolute bolter in Quinn Tupaia. Didn't see that coming at all. Didn't see Quinn Tupaia. I thought maybe Lester Fainganuku. He might be a shout. There's been a few other good, solid midfielders, but Tupaia is, I guess, a guy with heaps of room to grow. He's raw talent. Still got a pretty high error rate, personally, I think. But so does Rico Ioane, so does Lester Fainganuku. Those guys are kind of go-forward players that get you a lot with a risk of dropping the ball or missing tackles. So, yeah, but Tupaia's a bit of a bolter. He's a wee bit of a bolter. But as I said, if you back anybody to refine that raw talent into some proper powerhouse unit. Plus, he's got experience with ALB, so that kind of bodes well. He plays more 12. You got Fainganuku, Rico Ioane, and ALB. Plus, Enor have mostly played 13. I know Enor can kind of switch between the two, so can ALB, although ALB is going to be out for a little while with injury. Rico pretty much plays exclusively at 13. I don't know that I've seen Lester line up at 13, so maybe that's why he misses out in favour of Tupaia, who mostly played 12. And then outside backs, you got Geordie Barrett, George Bridge, Will Jordan, Damien McKenzie, and Sevu Reece. Bridge is maybe a wee bit lucky. I think that's a wee bit of a pick, partially on reputation, because he's not played a lot. I think he played 1 Trans-Tasman game in the last, 6 weeks. And then you've got Will Jordan and Geordie Barrett plus D-Mac, who pretty much played fullback. So you got 3 fullbacks and 2 wingers And D-Mac, they mentioned, is the other 10 cover in case anything happens with Brodie or Richie. I mean, D-Mac in Trans-Tasman was playing 10, but most of Aotearoa, he was playing 15. Reese on the right wing, Bridge on the left, maybe, plus one other. I'm not sure. You know they're going to play Geordie on the wing, aren't they? Surely. Or Will Jordan. They could literally play 3 fullbacks in one game. They could play D-Mac at fullback plus Will Jordan on the left and Geordie Barrett on the right. Would not surprise me in the slightest. Narek has been in top form in terms of absolute out-and-out wingers. Salesi Rayasi's had really good go-forward ball, but maybe doesn't quite have that complete game yet. Even Julian Savia, who I don't think was ever a chance, had a pretty good campaign out on the right wing. Yeah, man, we've got heaps of wingers. Heaps of wingers, but they've only picked 2. So, yeah, it's interesting. It is interesting. Aiden Ross is another one who's maybe a bit unlucky to miss out. There'll be others. But, yeah, certainly some bolters. A few uncapped names. And overall, like most of the positions are pretty solid. Whitelock as captain. I think everyone predicted that. Retallick and Brodie back. Everyone predicted that. Christie was, I think, the favourite to get that extra spot at 9. So extra halfback being him. I think Tupou is probably the biggest bolter. And then maybe to Groot plus Lomax. Even though he's an All Black based on form, I think Lomax is a wee bit of a bolter. But anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts. How do you rank this side? Do you think Fozzie and Foxy and whatnot are on the right track? Or do you think they've missed the trick with some of these names? How do you reckon they're going to go? Up against Fiji and Tonga, they should do well. Is this enough in terms of building for the next World Cup? I guess Fozzie's mission this year to get that contract extension is he needs to win everything between here and the end of the year. So is this the right step? But anyway, you guys have any thoughts? Like the video if you got this far through it. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.